Welcome to Salem Witch Trials Daily, the podcast where we discuss the history, the conflicts, and the human stories behind the witch trials. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
This is Sarah Jack. Today we are focusing on the Porter family, a uniquely powerful clan in Salem Village. While they are known for their local political prominence, today we are going to look closely at their direct involvement during the 1692 witch trials and their role in the aftermath.
To understand their actions, we first have to understand their standing. The Porter family formed the absolute financial elite of Salem Village. Patriarch John Porter Sr. left an estate valued at a massive 2,753 pounds, which included nearly 2,000 acres of land, large amounts of livestock, and fine silver spoons.
His household also included indentured and enslaved servants. Upon his death, his sons Joseph, Benjamin, and Israel became the wealthiest men and the largest taxpayers in Salem Village. Instead of focusing their political energies inward on the village, the Porters strongly aligned themselves with the commercial center of Salem Town, with Israel serving 12 terms as a Salem Town selectman.
So when the trials erupted in 1692, you might wonder how this wealthy, outward-looking family fared. Incredibly, blood members of the Porter family were spared from witchcraft accusations.
Historians attribute this immunity to the deep habits of deference in the village. The afflicted accusers were unlikely to lash out at such powerful, locally respected gentry whom they encountered every single day.
However, their broader circle wasn't totally immune. Their brother-in-law, Daniel Andrew, a comparative newcomer of lesser standing, was accused of witchcraft and forced to flee. And during the trials, the accuser, Abigail Williams, claimed that the specters of Rebecca Nurse and Sarah Cloyce confessed to murdering Benjamin Porter.
When the trials began, the Porters actively used their local influence to defend the accused, most notably the elderly Rebecca Nurse. Israel Porter utilized his sophisticated urbane intellect to compose and circulate a carefully phrased petition in Nurse's defense, managing to gather 39 signatures from the community.
Israel and his wife Elizabeth also provided a deeply moving sworn deposition for Rebecca. They testified to visiting her when she was sick, noting her pious Christian character, her quoting of scripture, and her deep pity for the afflicted girls. When they told her she was accused, she was amazed, saying, "I am as innocent as the child unborn," and wondering what unrepented sin God was punishing her for.
The respect was mutual. Rebecca Nurse petitioned the court to allow Mrs. Porter, noted as a grave, wise, and skillful woman, to be among the women who should re-examine her body for supernatural marks. Additionally, Israel's nephew John Porter and his wife Lydia testified that the accuser, Sarah Bibber, was an unruly, turbulent spirit who was double-tongued to aid in Nurse's defense.
Though Rebecca Nurse was tragically executed, the Porters did not retreat. They became key figures in the aftermath of the trials, specifically orchestrating the effort to oust Reverend Samuel Parris.
Members of the Porter family, including Joseph Porter and Daniel Andrew, served on an anti-Parris village committee that completely refused to collect the minister's salary. But the most complex maneuvering happened in the shadows.
Israel Porter operated as a strategic, behind-the-scenes advisor to the dissenting brethren, the church members trying to force Parris out. Israel hovered in the background, whispering advice and devising ecclesiastical strategies. The dissenting brethren were Samuel Nurse, John Tarbell, and Thomas Wilkins. Samuel was the son of Rebecca Nurse. John Tarbell was the son-in-law of Rebecca Nurse. He was the husband of her daughter, Mary. And Thomas Wilkins was the father-in-law of John Willard, who, like Rebecca, was executed for witchcraft. And so they had grievances with Samuel Parris. And like, who can blame them for not wanting to go to the church of the guy who had really started the accusations of witchcraft?
Throughout 1693 and 1694, They engaged in a complex sequence of petitions and private meetings to maneuver Parris into calling a council of outside ministers. They successfully lobbied ministers in Boston, Salem, and Beverly, who then directly pressured Parris to convene the council.
This relentless strategy culminated in a dramatic confrontation in November 1694. Parris was forced to read his opponent's grievances aloud in the meeting house. The congregation heard a stinging indictment of Parris's easy and strong faith in the accusers and his utter lack of charity toward his neighbors during the 1692 trials. The grievances that the dissenting brethren had with Samuel Parris were they said they couldn't benefit from church services because of the disruptions of the afflicted people.
They worried about being accused of witchcraft themselves.
They found some of Parris's preaching offensive.
They could not join Samuel Parris in many of his prayers about the witchcraft crisis.
They were aggrieved and offended with Parris for the following reasons. Parris's beliefs about the witch trials were different from other ministers.
He was gullible in believing what the afflicted person said.
He was not charitable towards his neighbors, and especially towards those of his own church.
He had taken the afflicted persons around to visit the sick and identify the witches afflicting them.
He testified against some of the accused.
He was unfair in his depictions of courtroom proceedings, which he recorded for the court.
He preached some things they found to be unchristian.
When they met before, he only offended them further.
He offended them when they were just trying to make peace and resolve their grievances with him.
Parris then responded with a document he called Meditations for Peace, where he finally admitted that in the darkness of the trials, he may have spoken inadvisedly and asked for forgiveness for his offenses.
And then Samuel Parris, for his part, one of the things that he said is interesting. He said, "As to any passage in preaching or prayer in that sore hour of distress and darkness, I always intended but do justice on each hand, and that not according to man, but God, who knows all things most perfectly. However, through weakness or sore exercise, I might sometimes, yea, and possibly sundry times, unadvisedly expressed myself." The Porters wielded their immense wealth and strategic brilliance not just to survive 1692, but to fundamentally reshape the village by forcing accountability in the aftermath.